Christmas last year, my parents got me Darksiders 1 and 2 for PS4 as they were both being sold together on eBay for dirt cheap. So at the time of writing the script, I hadn't actually started on Darksiders 2, but the day after finishing the script, I did start on Darksiders 2. And we'll get to the review of that game once we've finished it. So after 2 whole months of work put into Darksiders 1, I thought it was only fair to break down the whole game and give my true and honest thoughts about the game. So just to start off, Darksiders is kind of like a Souls game, but it leans more towards the adventure side of things, without having to grind Souls, unlike other Souls games. Looking at you, Dark Souls. I originally played Darksiders back in early last year on the Wii U, and the Wii U being the Wii U, it didn't run particularly well, let's just say that. It's locked at 30 FPS, the textures and graphics have been like scaled down to at least be able to run on the Wii U's hardware. While playing the Wii U version, I experienced a ton of bugs and glitches resulting in soft locks or just terrible, unplayable gameplay. There were 3 bugs that stood out to me the most when I played this game, as they were kind of difficult to miss. So the first major glitch I had took place in one of the rooms of the Twilight Cathedral, where the little bridge spins around in the middle of the room. Well, I somehow ended up getting stuck inside the bridge whilst trying to jump onto it. I clipped through the outer collision layer and got stuck inside the middle of the bridge, resulting in me having to close the game and reload it. The next glitch I experienced was in another room of Twilight Cathedral, where you have to take the sword and then the enemies appear and you have to fight them. Well, in every attempt I had with this fight, which was a lot because the glitch kept making me die, after grabbing the sword, the collision map would just tilt, therefore allowing me to run through the visual flaw. This made the fight so much harder than it should have been, and it was actually making me contemplate playing any more of the game. Once I finally suffered my way through the fight, I didn't really experience any other glitches. Until the area boss, Tiamat. On a couple of attempts for this boss, for no apparent reason, the collision map would shrink and I'd be stuck in a circle about 3 meters big. This obviously resulted in me dying a lot because I couldn't move to avoid Tiamat's attacks. At this point I decided to stop playing that version of the game, as I had a pretty bad taste for how the rest of the game was going to run. So I uninstalled Darksiders off of my Wii U console and never thought about the game again. Until Christmas, when I got Darksiders 1 and 2 on PS4. This game runs so much better than the Wii U version. It runs at a solid, smooth 60 FPS, the graphics and textures look really nice, and multiple times throughout my playthrough I would just stop and look at the scenery and think, man, this game is gorgeous. And that is one thing I do love about modern day games. The game starts by throwing you into a city that has been destroyed by the Thorns of Demons, I'm guessing. I don't really know what it is. I found this, by the way. Why not? Nice little prop. So there's monsters all over the city streets, which immediately teaches you about the combat of the game, helping you learn the moveset and the attacks. This first section isn't all combat though, as there's a route to follow through the city teaching you how to get around and use all the different obstacles, like the texture wall you can climb on and the zip wire thing. I think it's like a telephone wire, I don't know. It's a really fun starter to the game, and it gives you a feel of what you can expect throughout the rest of the playthrough. Once you get to the end of the adventure platforming segment, the game instantly throws you into the first boss fight, which is against an enormous enemy named Straga. No matter what you do here, if you play well, if you play bad, you are going to lose in the end. as is the case with a lot of other Souls games. And that pretty much concludes the intro of the game. The next area of the game is Seraphim Hotel, which is just a simple platform area with a few enemy waves along the way, with a tougher enemy at the end of the area. Leading into the Crossworlds, you will find the one and only part of this game where you have to grind souls, which takes like 5 minutes, it's not much. Progressing with the story after this though, you pass through a couple more areas until you reach a mini boss called Phantom General, which is a pretty easy boss. Once you've spoken to Samael, he will then tell you to kill the bosses and return their hearts to Samael. It's a bit morbid if you ask me, but it makes the story pretty darn good. You then make your way to and through the first dungeon, Twilight Cathedral, which I won't talk too much on the dungeons, as they're actually pretty fun to find your way through and beat the challenges yourself. After defeating the boss Tiamat and ripping out her heart and returning it to Samael, he then redirects you to the next area through Drowned Pass and Shadow Realm. In this area you have to complete a series of challenges which let you fight enemies to prove yourself worthy to the stone giant that blocks your way forward. Making your way through Anvil's Ford, taking down some tougher enemies, you meet up with Ulthane. Ulthane will join you on your next segment in that area, helping you take down the enemies that swarm you, and opening up the blocked paths with like his bombs or whatever that he throws. You then meet another mini-boss, the Angel Champion. This is a pretty easy boss fight too, but if you don't avoid her attacks then it can be tricky. So, after your little adventure with Ulthane, the next dungeon is now before us, which is the Hollows. This is probably my least favourite dungeon in the whole game, purely because of how complicated it was and the amount of backtracking I had to do to get to the boss. It took me a while to get through this dungeon, even spreading across like 2 different play sessions, which is good to flesh out the length of time in the game, but it did get boring after a while. The boss of this dungeon, the Griever, is pretty cool. You have to avoid the laser that he shoots at you whilst ramming the train carriage into his body to then stun him and attack him. After each attack that you do to him, he will then shake the area, causing rubble and crap to fall out of the ceiling, which can do pretty hefty damage if you're not careful. After ripping out the Griever's heart and returning it to Samael, he will once again redirect you to the next dungeon, which is past the dry road and into the Ashlands. This was probably my least favourite area in the overworld because it just got tedious and boring after a while, purely because I spent close to an hour trying to work out what to do, and then I moved on to a guide because, yeah, I couldn't work it out. You then go through some more caves and stuff like that. This will then help you acquire a new item, helping you progress through the game, which then leads to the Gladiator Arena. In this arena you have like waves of enemies that will swarm at you and you have to defeat them, and then you'll have a couple of riders on horseback that you have to defeat as well. After defeating a few tougher enemies, the third horseman will appear, which actually proceeds into a really cool fight that I really enjoyed and an awesome section of the game. So once you defeat the horseman, you'll then gain the horse and are free to ride it wherever. Kinda. Well, you're limited to certain areas where you can ride the horse, but it's kind of understandable as it would break the game, but it's still really cool to ride the horse around in like the sort of open areas though. Now, you can return back to the way you came with the horse as your companion and take on the Stygian. I actually found this to be one of the toughest bosses in the game. You have to kind of like circle around with the gun that you get from that bit and kind of just shoot it when you get an opening to shoot it, which is fun, but I did struggle on this boss. Defeating the Stygian then unlocks the next dungeon, which is a ruined building filled with spiders. After making your way through this dungeon, which I didn't mind this dungeon, it was just kind of boring. After making your way through this dungeon, you then face the Silitha, which is a huge angry spider boss, which is fairly easy to take down as long as you work out what you need to do, which luckily I managed to figure this out quite quickly. Once again, without the boss's heart, return it to Samael and he'll point you towards your next dungeon, which is one of the final areas in the game, the Black Throne. I know, we've made it this far, this quick. I'm not going to talk about this dungeon much either because it would take way too long, and there's not a lot to talk about without spoiling the puzzles or giving it away. And as I mentioned earlier, it's fun to kind of work these puzzles out by yourself as you go along. It took me a really long time to get through this dungeon because there's just so much to do. But it did start to get a bit repetitive and boring towards like the second half of the dungeon. When you've completed the quest in this dungeon, you then unlock the door to the area boss, which is none other than Straga. It is a fairly simple boss fight. It's actually easier than the first fight with Straga, which is, I don't know, it's kind of to be expected at this point. It can be tricky if you don't know how to dodge his attacks. After defeating Straga, you're then transported to Eden, where you'll fight a dark shadow clone of yourself, which I thought was really cool. It reminded me of the final boss in Thymesia, where you literally fight yourself. After defeating the shadow clone of your character War, you head forwards to the big tree, which will then trigger a cutscene telling you who the bad guy is and how to defeat him. You need to find the 6 pieces of the Shattered Sword that will defeat the final boss. When I first heard about this and what I had to do, I thought it was going to take forever. But I was pleasantly surprised when it only took around 20 minutes to find all the pieces and take them back to the blacksmith, obtain the sword, and return to the area leading to the final boss. The final boss was okay to start with. You start off in like a big arena with a fire wolf running around and it's charging at you. So whilst editing this video, I actually realised this isn't a wolf, it's not a dog, it's actually a dragon, Abaddon the dragon. I clearly wasn't paying attention when I was looking back through a guide to write the script, because I had to look at a guide to write the script because I couldn't remember the story. I needed to get it right, basically. So yeah, it's a dragon, not a wolf. So if I say wolf from now on, it's a dragon. It's a really straightforward fight. You attack the wolf's legs, and which will make him fall over. Then you go over, slash the shit out of him with your new blade. Do this a few times over, he'll charge at you, triggering a quick time event where you just spam the button, which will then send the wolf flying up in the air as you attack him. He'll then come crashing down and slam through the floor of the arena. At this point, I thought it was all over. I was like, wow, what a lame final boss. But then War just jumped down into the hole and landed face to face with the new human form of the final boss, which I still didn't understand who it was. But he also had his own sword. He'll guard yourself from your attacks with his sword. Then he'll try to attack you, so you've got to get in there quick to attack him. After each attack, he then flies up into the air and starts throwing little lumps of rock at you, which are harder to dodge than you'd think. After attacking him a few times, another quick time event will trigger, making you spam the button again as quick as you physically can. Then, that's it. It's over. Another cutscene plays showing War in great pain as the demons are literally coming for him. But then when the Angel Champion tries to defend you, the little devil that's been tagging along with you since the start of the game then attacks the Angel Champion, which I thought was really uncalled for, to be honest. War then pretty much overcomes his pain and uses it to power himself up and beats the living shit out of the devil. It's a really powerful scene and a great demonstration of just how tough War really is. So when I first jumped into the game, I thought it was just going to be another Souls-like game, grinding for hours upon hours to level up. Well, I was completely wrong. There's no grinder levels in this game whatsoever, other than that one 5-minute segment at the start of the game. Now you may be wondering, if there's no grinding, what's the point in the Souls? You don't actually use the souls to level up, you use them to unlock new skills and attacks and to buy different healers and movesets that you can do in the game. You never actually upgrade Ward's stats in the game, seeing as he's pretty OP as it is. Other than like finding different collectibles in chests to upgrade Ward's maximum health, you don't upgrade his stats whatsoever. I honestly thought this game was really fun, and at the time of writing this, I can't wait to start Darksiders 2. At the time of recording this, I can't wait to continue with Darksiders 2. The first game has really given me a lot to look forward to for the second game, and I really hope that it lives up to the hype of the first game. There were some parts of the game that I wasn't a huge fan on, the second dungeon being one of those, as I mentioned, and some of the enemy waves that like block you from progressing were quite tricky too. I generally do not like enemy waves, because if you can't get past a certain enemy, you're blocked in that same position of the game until you get past it. I love that Darksiders offers more than typical Souls games, such as just running through each area and grinding levels until you're strong enough to beat the area boss. Dark Souls Remastered took me around 5 months to beat, and that's purely because of grinding and leveling. Darksiders is completely different to that, offering more platforming, exploration and adventure with the combat along the way. You also pick up different items as you progress through the game, which I liked, because that means you don't have to backtrack half the way across the world just to get a grappling hook to get across that one gap. Darksiders is all go. It's just non-stop action and adventure, which I absolutely loved. The bosses of this game were done really well as well. Fun, having good difficulty variety as well, and each having their own unique attacks and moveset. The atmosphere of the game and the different areas were really cool too. Each one stood out. I never found myself getting lost, and if I did, there's also a map. Tiny little one in the corner. I didn't really fully understand the story of the game, but what I did understand, I thought was awesome. Originally going into the PS4 version of this game, I was skeptical, and that was because of the just sour taste that I still had from the Wii U version. Thankfully, the PS4 version is 10 times better than the Wii U version, which I'm super glad of. I'm really excited to, go through the whole of Darksiders 2, which I will review at the end of my playthrough. If you're a fan of adventure games and platforming games that also tie in like combat really well into the pacing of the game, I can guarantee Darksiders is for you. And for the Souls game lovers out there, this game would probably also appeal to you too, seeing as there is like an option to grind souls for all the attacks if you wish. With that being said, you can get through the game pretty easily without upgrading any attacks at all. I didn't really buy or upgrade any attacks on my playthrough, and I didn't seem to have a hard time with the game at all. Sure, there were times where I'd die multiple times on a boss or win from enemies. That's to be expected. It was my first playthrough of the game, and I was still getting used to the mechanics of the game. I put somewhere around 15 hours into this game, which you're now probably thinking, if I only put 15 hours into it, well, how did it take 2 months to beat? Well, the answer's simple. I wasn't constantly playing it. But even though I dragged the game out for literally 2 months, it never got boring. It never felt like it was never going to end, if you get what I mean. Every time I loaded the game up, I was hyped, I was ready, and I always had a fun time. That pretty much sums up my whole thoughts on this game as a whole, and at the time of writing the script, I'm super excited to play Darksiders 2. I don't usually write scripts for like review videos. I usually just hit record and say what I think. Then during editing or upload, I always think of something that I missed. I didn't want to miss a single thing about this game, so therefore I am going to start writing scripts for all my review videos from now on. I'm also currently working on Elden Ring for PS4. Myself and my friend Adam Hammers are playing that on like Wednesdays over on our Twitch streams, and I'm absolutely loving it. There's not been a moment in that game that I've disliked. I will be making a review video on that game as well. When I'm finished with Darksiders soon, not only will I make a review video about it, I will then be moving on to Dark Souls 2. I'm really hyped to get back into the Dark Souls trilogy, as Dark Souls 1 Remastered is the only one I beat back in December. The reason I haven't made a review video on Dark Souls 1 yet is because I want to wait until I beat Dark Souls 2 and 3. Then I want to make a huge review video on all three of them, comparing the different things in each of the games, and then I can determine which of the three was my favourite. As always, thanks for watching this video. I know it's been a long one today, but I do want to get into like more review videos, so expect longer uploads from now on. Also, check out the merch store where you can get all kinds of different products with my custom designs printed on them. Check out my Twitch channel where I play a variety of different games and do a lot of co-op collabs with random hamheads too. There'll be links to like everything in the description. So I hope you'll have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you all soon. Bye.